Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I didn't actually think we would be talking again so soon, Rob, but obviously it seems that there has been a lot of discussion recently. So I wanted to reach out to you and see if we could maybe get another call and discuss some of the things that is currently going on in the news cycle right now about Sentinels. So first of all, thank you again to agreeing to do this with me again. You know, it's really good to see that organizations are obviously kind of opting in for a bit more transparency.
Thank you, George. George, it has been interesting to see the reaction today and the amount of intense scrutiny to one sentence in a filing. But happy when you reached out and wanted to sit down and talk to go through a couple of these key issues and bring a little clarity, hopefully, for the community.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing, right? I think a lot of people are going to be asking quite a few questions, so hopefully we can kind of, I can kind of create these questions and give them to you regarding some of these answers, right? Because I think one of the main things that people have been asking about is Sentinels obviously undergoing this crowdfunding. Can you talk a little bit about the process regarding the crowdfunding that you're doing and kind of what's the general guidelines? Because I see some kind of people misconstruing stuff. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that procedure?
Yes, the key is this is a filing with the SEC, and the rules require mandatory disclosures of potential risks, but you don't put in there, this risk has a 50% chance of happening, and this risk has a 20% chance of happening. You just lay out all risks so that investors are fully informed, and then they can make a decision about whether they think that that risk is likely to occur and the effect that would have on their investment. And so this is all about making sure that investors have as much information as possible when they make a decision. It is a little funny that in an 80-page document, one sentence in that document has become the exciting element of Twitter this morning.
Yeah, that's like the easy thing to hone in on, though, right? Because people look at that and they go, "Oh, yes. Sentinels are operating at this loss." Like
yes, and that people quoting something that says, "If this and this happen, then we would have cash for 4 to 5 months of operation." Now, the key to that sentence is, again, giving people full disclosure of saying, if the crowdfunding only raised this much money and Sentinels were not able to raise capital from their current investors or any other outside equity source, then this is how much capital they would have. It doesn't say that the current investors aren't going to continue to fund. It says, here's what would happen. And so, everyone skipped the word and just said, oh, wow, they only have 4 to 5 months of cash flow available. We've run our company very disciplined. We have managed our cash flow tightly. But when people look at it, they look at it and say, hey, wait a second, look how much money you lost this year. But, we've raised capital internally. Our investor group is very committed to the strategy that we have. And the intention is that we will continue to provide funding for the operation. We created this opportunity where fans could invest alongside of us. They're totally fine to instead just listen to Tarek and buy Sentinels jerseys and hoodies to support the organization. That's completely fine.
Yeah.
But this is an opportunity where if our business plan works out the way we hope it does, that there's then the opportunity for investors to succeed alongside us economically.
Yeah. So I think like another important point that I think is like very relevant is just like for Sentinels fans, like you don't have to worry, that kind of thing, right? It's kind of about the filing. I think, would you agree that it was kind of talking about, being able to like fund the company kind of like forever? Is that the kind of wording that it was kind of requiring? What kind of thing would you kind of say there? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the issue gets back to, right, we can't make promises we can't keep. And so it is more about giving people perspective of different potential outcomes, right? Because we're certainly not saying to investors, no matter what happens with Sentinels, no matter what happens with esports, that we're going to fund Sentinels till forever, right? That is not the promise we are making to investors, right? And so that's where the document lays out all these different possible outcomes. And so we currently we're very passionate about this brand and what we've accomplished, and really excited about what 2024 should look like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking a little bit about the future, I think it's very important to note that like esports is currently going through a bit of a tough time. But I think the overall organization, what would you say, I guess, what would you actually say the organization is doing right now? Like, whereabouts is the organization? Where does it fit into the esports ecosystem? You know, where is it in its kind of life cycle?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our organization, right, we launched in 2018. We had the kind of miracle of Bogo winning the Fortnite World Cup in 2019. But where we really started to have the momentum and started to believe that we could build a brand as big as and as powerful as the leading brands in North America was when we started to see success in Valorant in 2021. And so that's when we made a very specific decision to make a big investment in our brand and try and catch up to the organizations like 100 Thieves and Cloud9 that have been around a long time. Certainly Cloud9 been around 5 years longer than us. You have organizations that have been around substantially longer than that. And so we needed to close the gap in terms of the reach that we have and in terms of the strength of our brand. So we made a substantial investment over the last 2 years to really take that momentum in Valorant and try and build up our brand. And what we've accomplished in that time is we've gained more followers on Twitter over the last year and a half than any other organization in North America on our main Sentinels Twitter. On our main Sentinels YouTube account, we've added the most subscribers in North America during that time. And so we're seeing those payoffs in that investment. And so as we look to 2024, that's where we really expect them to start to pay off. But if you put it in context, I think the one interesting thing that everybody just doesn't have any context to talk about, right, is there's information that is public about how much capital other esports organizations have raised. So if people spent a few minutes on Crunchbase and you type in your favorite esports org, you can see how much total capital they have raised today. Most of those organizations have raised substantially more capital than we have. So they've had more time and more capital to invest in their brands, and we now have made a big investment in our brand. But it's no different than in other industries. When someone wants to build a brand, you have to make an investment. Like, you can't fund tremendous growth just out of your short-term revenue. The plan is, and the hope is, that if you make a big investment in a brand and you build a powerful, popular brand, that in the long term, there will be opportunities to monetize that brand that will generate substantial returns, profitability, and cash flow. But that is all what we're hopefully building toward.
Yeah, because I think that would be the logical step, right? Because I'm thinking of, if I was an investor and I was looking at Sentinels and I was like, okay, how will this team, generate significant revenue in the future? I think there would be quite a few different avenues that, I would say Sentinels could probably go down, but I'm sure you probably have a few more details about this. And I would say, just from the outside looking in, the most notable of that would probably be your Valorant, right? That's where you've invested the most. So could you kind of discuss a little bit more about your plans in the future and how you kind of plan to improve the overall revenue for the organization?
Yes, we made a real investment in Valorant for two reasons. One of the biggest ones was Riot's track record in supporting esports and how they have developed and built esports. So as we saw the power of Valorant and the popularity of the game and our belief that it would turn into a strong esport with Riot's support, that felt to us like this is a great place to make an investment and really now jumpstart our brand and make it into one of the most powerful brands in North America. Now, the great thing is with Riot's partnership program, one of the big initiatives is starting in 2024, for the first time, there will be in-game digital content available for fans. So when you look at past drops and what Riot has paid to teams, if you look at public information, those drops can generate more than $10 million in total to all of the teams. So what the real question is for fans and potential investors is, what do you think the pool of digital goods will be to teams when there's team branded content? And how popular is Sentinels, and therefore what market share of digital branded content is Sentinels likely to get? And so that is a new revenue stream that will come online in 2024. And so that is one of the reasons we're optimistic about the investment we've made in our Valorant brand, that here is a direct way for fans of Sentinels to be part of the team and really support the organization and show their fanship. So we're very optimistic about what that can mean. The other key thing is that we didn't have the reach of our competitors. So if you're a sponsor, you want to reach esports fans, and we had a fraction of their reach, well, we certainly weren't going to be one of your top starting points. So as we are now looking to 24, we now have reach that is competitive with we have as much reach as our competitors, but also now, like in 2022, on Twitter, we had the most engagement of a North American esports org. So we've managed to create a dialogue. We want to have fun with this space. We hope to entertain people. And we hope the benefit of that is that sponsors now see us as one of the leading brands, and therefore where you would want to partner if you want to be partnering in the esports space and advertising in the esports space. And then a couple of the other things we've done to, again, now really pivot to, we have this fan base. How do we create new revenue opportunities? So we launched a fan club, Sen Society, 2 months ago, and quickly got up to 1,000 paying monthly subscribers, where we're giving them exclusive content and then creating unique opportunities for them. Like we did a meet and greet and watch party at our offices for Sen Society members. So constantly finding ways to say, if you're a fan of Sentinels, how can you be a bigger part of Sentinels? How can we create more opportunities for you? And then in what could be the biggest upside to us is we've now taken in-house our merchandise operations. And so we now have enough scale and enough volume that we can source our product directly, and we can manage that directly. And now with higher margins, we can afford to have more drops and increase the scale and the revenue and the profitability of our merchandise operation. And so that, again, is another key part of what we're building into in 2024. So as we look at all those, we're optimistic that we will be on a path that we will reduce these losses and hopefully soon we'll be profitable. But obviously now you're talking about estimating a lot of things about the overall economy, about the state of esports, about the economics in esports. All we can say is, as we sit here today, we're optimistic that 2024 will have a better financial picture than we had in 2022. Like, those are the two key things as we look at the information that's been publicly available, and as we look to the future. That's what we see as the potential here. So we created a vehicle for fans to both actually own a piece of Sentinels, so that not only if your team is successful, that you have the joy of being the fan of the success, you also could have an economic benefit. But we know that that is risky. So that is why these disclosures have a lot of risks laid out for people to evaluate and identify, and for them to really address, what does this look like? And what could it look like? What could go wrong? And have all that information before people make an investment decision.
Yeah. No, I think it definitely makes sense. I think talking about the revenue opportunities, I've always said personally, I always think that when an organization and a game developer, they kind of need to work together, to be able to kind of help the esport itself, right? I've seen it with a few other games about like, the skins in the game, and I think it's in like Call of Duty, League of Legends and stuff like that. I think that definitely helps. And then obviously you have Counter-Strike as well, where you have like these the what's called the signatures and stuff like that. And I think that actually generates a lot of like revenue for organizations. So I think there's definitely a lot of upside and a lot of potential, and we've actually seen it, right? Like we've seen the amount of money that is with these microtransactions in Valorant, right? So I've always personally held the belief that they generate a lot of money.
Yeah, I think the key is in terms of what Riot is trying to do to really create a sustainable ecosystem is basically saying we're going to give the opportunity for the organizations that invest in their brand and invest in supporting the game that there's a very tangible potential payoff. And so that's what we're
like,
very
you'll reap the
optimistic.
rewards of it, I guess, kind of thing.
That is the hope. Hope. But again, like I said, this is all us trying to assess where we are and trying to predict the future. That is obviously complicated. But I appreciated the opportunity to talk to you about what was going on, because this morning, like I said, out of an 80-page filing, one sentence suddenly became, the Sentinels are closing in 4 months, which certainly was never the intention of what it was to communicate, because again, people skipped a very critical word, which was based on the crowdfunding. And if the current investors didn't provide any future cash flow, what would happen? That is what that sentence says. Everyone kind of skipped the end, but just wanted the opportunity to kind of reassure our fans of what our plans are and what they could possibly be part of if they'd like to be part of it. But again, we understand that when you're dealing with a startup, there's a lot of risk. Now, the opportunity of if it succeeds is hopefully there's substantial upside, but you just have to be evaluating those two together.
Yeah. No, I mean, that definitely makes sense. So I think regarding this, I think I would definitely like to have the opportunity to like sit down with you again, if possible. Maybe like in a week or so, and then maybe I can collect a few more community questions and then bring them to you. I think that would definitely be like something I would be very interested in. What would you kind of say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing is, as you're very well aware, trying to have a dialogue on Twitter really isn't the way Twitter is particularly effective. It's good at sharing opinions and having some fun and some back and forth. So therefore, at least the opportunity so that I can respond to concerns people have, questions people have, and update people on how this is going. Happy to get back together again next week and give people an update.
Yeah. Well, there we go. You've heard it here first. I will be facilitating that, and hopefully we can kind of get another interview together, and I will collect some community questions. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed the interview, and we'll speak to you again shortly.